Hey, welcome back to Life After 55, where we talk about staying healthy, staying hopeful, and staying prepared in the second half of life. I'm Roy, and today we are finally jumping into part two of building a home apothecary. Now, some of you longtime viewers probably remember that part one came out way back in September, and I apologize for that. You are probably wondering or thinking, hey, Roy, what happened? Well, life happened, and as some of you may know, I do have a bookkeeping slash tax advisory slash tax prep business, which is my daily 9 to 5. I also started a community focused newsletter at the end of last August called the Onslow Insider. So, between the Onslow Insider, that newsletter has been growing in leaps and bounds since I started it, so that's going well. But between that growing, tax clients are rolling in because it's the end of the year now, and I'm also at the moment brainstorming a brand new course for folks over 50. Um, Between all of that, time just got away from me, so I promise I didn't forget about you. And honestly, I'm excited to finally finish what we started. I really believe that. And speaking of that course, really quick, if you didn't see the YouTube poll I posted the other day, I believe I posted it a day or two ago. Excuse me. Um, I would love for you to check it out after the video. Basically, I'm just asking whether you'd be interested in a simple, beginner friendly course that explains how normal people, especially those of us who are 50 and older, can use the same legal, tax, and wealth strategies that wealthy families use and have been using forever. Um, the course has things like borrowing tax free against investments, protecting what you leave behind, and the big thing is avoiding unnecessary taxes. So, your vote's going to help me decide if that's something to build or not next. But I'd really like everybody's input because, like I said, I don't want to dump a lot of time into this if nobody's interested in it. But, like I said, too, it's a real good strategy. I use it at my age, and I'm in my upper 60s. So, it works, and I think it would benefit a lot of people. And if you remember, those of you who are long term watchers here or followers, whatever you might call yourselves, viewers, when I first started this channel, the very first video or two, I believe it was the first two, was about ways you could make extra money. Now that you're 50, 60, 70 years old, not like a 9 to 5 job, just side gigs that you could make some extra money at. So this kind of ties in with this, and this is like the course that I'm building or that I want to build is basically helping everybody get some money. And the best thing about this course that I'm doing is, when unfortunately when your time comes to pass, your kids or whoever you want to leave that to gets it without getting whacked with the inheritance tax and all that other stuff. So that's a big plus if you've got grandkids or your own kids or whatever. So like I said, if you could please look for that poll on the channel. It's a simple yes, no, maybe, answer, and I would really appreciate it, and it would really, really, really help me get going. I mean, decide whether or not to build that or not. Okay? All right. Today, we are getting practical again. Now, in part one, we talked about why having a home apothecary makes sense, especially in uncertain times. And this is part two. And in this part, we are going hands on the herbs, the oils, the tools, the simple remedies you can keep right at home to support your health and your family's well being. So let's get back into it, starting with the mandatory disclaimer. No, I haven't forgotten that. So you shall see the mandatory disclaimer up there, and you can follow along with me if you'd like, or you can just listen. But anyways, this video is for educational purposes only. I am not a doctor. I am not a medical professional or a counselor in any way, shape, or form. The information that I provide here is based on my own research and my own experience. This is not medical advice, and you should always, always, always check with your doctor, your healthcare provider, and or your medical professional before trying any new remedies or changing your routine, especially if you are already taking medication or if you're already managing a health condition. Okay? All right. So there we go with the mandatory disclaimer. And again, please take heed to that. I know I kind of make light of that, but really, it's you should check with your doctor. Don't do anything, because some of these things they may affect you adversely, and they don't for the most part. But there's always going to be, the exception to the rule. So check with your doctor. Now, if you're new here, I started this channel to help people in their 50 plus years. And I did mention I have COPD, so my breathing sometimes is rough and I cough sometimes, but I have learned to edit videos finally. Yay! No, and now I have a cold on top of that. So my doctor told me I need to go easy because a cold with COPD is not a good thing. Excuse me. So, anyways, please bear with me. I'm going to make this video as quick as I can. I don't want to drag these out anymore. Like some of the videos I've done in the past, I've gone 45 minutes to an hour or whatever, and we want to not do that. All right. If you remember back in part 1 of building a home apothecary, I had researched the top 10 over-the-counter medicines that are sold in U.S. pharmacies. So that made me think, well, what would people do if there was some sort of a natural disaster or circumstance where everything was closed or offline for a month or more? Like where I am, we get hurricanes a lot during hurricane season. And sometimes, things are just down for like a week, too. Like we had a hurricane here, back in 2018, I think it was. And that one flooded us and everything. It was weird. So everything was closed for, like I said, for weeks. It was really weeks before things opened up again. So I'm thinking of things like that. So what would people do if something like that happened to them and they couldn't get to a pharmacy for, needed necessities and or medical supplies? And that's kind of why I came up with the idea of building a home apothecary. And I mean, to me, being prepared is a lot better than not being prepared, right? So let's recap a little from part 1. And I'm going to put the chart up again, up there, the top 10, what I called my blueprint. The top 10 over-the-counter medicines that are sold in U.S. pharmacies are, and not necessarily in this order. Actually, it was kind of in this order, now that I think of it. It's been a while, so again, bear with me. But the number one thing they sell is pain relievers. That's your aspirin, your Advil, all that kind of thing. Second is cold and flu remedies. Next is allergy relief. Then comes heartburn and acid reflux. After that comes sleep aids. At number 6, it's digestive aids. Those are things like Tums and that kind of stuff. Pepto-Bismol and that. Then we have topical pain relief, which is, your creams and stuff. And like when I was a kid, we had Bactine. If you are in my age group, you probably remember Bactine. I don't even know if they still make that. But that was for things like, minor burns and scrapes and, stuff like that. And then we have antibiotic creams for rashes and whatnot. And then after that comes cough drops. And last but not least, rounding off the top 10 is vitamins and immune boosters. So that's the list that I put together after doing some research, and it's what I decided to build my home apothecary around. Now, of course, you can stock yours with whatever you think you would need if there were a situation where you couldn't access prescription meds for a while. But we're going to stick with my list for now, so let's look at the natural substitutes for each of those 10 items and what they're used for. Okay? Now, for pain relievers, You can use willow bark, turmeric, and ginger. Ginger is a pretty much a great thing all the way around. It reduces inflammation. It's a good thing. It really is. And willow bark is where there's a chemical in it that I can't think of off the top of my head, but there is a chemical in there. Or I don't know if it's a chemical or I assume it's a chemical. Anyways, that's where they got aspirin from. Believe it or not, that's a fact. All right, so those are the things you can use for that: willow bark, turmeric, and ginger for pain relief. Now, for cold and flu, you can get elderberry. You can get that as a syrup. You can get that in capsules. Then there's echinacea, and then there's thyme tea. All of those things are great. And speaking of those things, I've got some tea that I went to this craft fair like a week ago. It wasn't a craft fair, it was like a Christmas holiday thing with decorations, but there were a lot of craft people there. And I got some echinacea tea from this herbalist woman, and it works pretty good. It really does. So, anyways, for cold and flu, elderberry, there, like I said, is syrup or whatever, or you can get capsules and stuff. And then thyme tea. All of those things work great for a cold. Also, that I don't have on this list is honey. I got some raw honey with lemon that I put in my tea too sometimes, and that is good for a sore throat and that sort of thing. Okay, for allergy relief, there's nettle leaf. There's quercetin, quercetin-rich foods, I should say. And then local honey, even though I just mentioned that, which helps with allergies. They say if you have when pollen season is around, usually in the springtime when all the trees and plants are blooming and whatnot, they tell people, I've heard before, is to get honey from a local beekeeper and use that honey because that gets you immunized from the pollen in the area that you live in. So I don't know if that's true or not because I've never used it for that. I don't have allergies in the summertime or in the springtime. I'm fortunate, I guess. But I have heard that's a real good cure, or it works. All right, then next for heartburn, acid reflux, chamomile tea. It's not just for going to sleep at night. It's also helps with heartburn and stuff. Then you get slippery elm, and then aloe vera juice. Now I've never tried this aloe vera juice, and I honestly am not sure where you can get it, but I'm sure you can. I'm gonna have to look into that and get back to you on that one. But those three things will work for acid reflux and heartburn. All right, then we come back down to sleep aids. All right, now valerian root works well, chamomile tea again, and magnesium rich foods. Those are like your leafy greens and stuff that have a lot of magnesium in them. All right, after that we have digestive aids. Ginger again. You see how ginger's in a lot of these things? I'm telling you, it's a miracle cure to me. It works for a lot of things. Then there's peppermint. My mom used to swear by peppermint, and I never cared for it when I was little. But as I've gotten older, I know what she was talking about. But that does a lot of good too in a lot of different things. Also, fennel seeds that works too for a digestive aid. All right. Now we have topical pain relief, and this is cayenne salve. Arnica cream is something you can make or you can get from like a herbal store or whatever. Those are good for topical pain relief, and again, that's like your Bactine. Remember I said Bactine before, and things like that for minor cuts and scrapes and that sort of thing. Minor burns. I'm not talking third-degree burns or nothing. I'm talking like your average little scrape or something like that. All right, antibiotic creams, raw honey. See there, I have raw honey. Tea tree oil, another miracle cure, and then calendula salve also works very good. All right, then cough drops. You can make your own. Maybe one of these days we'll make our own cough drops. I'll show you how to do it. but you can use licorice root, marshmallow root, or honey lemon lozenges. And you can make all those yourself. And like I said, if you guys are really interested, hit me up in the comments, let me know. And we'll get into an episode of making all this stuff if you want. I mean, not all at once, but one time, one episode, we can make cough drops. Then maybe we can make a balm or a salve or whatever, and go, whatever. I mean, if that's something that interests you, let me know, and I'd be happy to do it. All right, and last but not least is vitamins and immune boosters. Now, rose hips are great. Elderberry again comes in. That works wonders also. Garlic. Garlic is a miracle. I guess I don't know what that's classified as. That's not a vegetable, I don't think, is it? Well, it's like an onion, I suppose. Well, anyways, whatever family it's in, it's a great thing from nature. It works on a lot of things and it does a lot of good for your gut and everything else. It does. All right, and then there's moringa. And all of these things that I mentioned here, you can buy these things from, a lot of it you can order online from Amazon. I was looking earlier, you can get like elderberry, you can order it from Walmart. They have it. So these things aren't that difficult to get. They're not. You just have to do a little research and find some place. Where I am, we have a store here. I think it's called the Vitamin Shop or something, and I'm not plugging it. I'm just saying that's the one that we have around here. But they sell a lot of this stuff, not all of it, but a lot of it they have in stock. And I know that if you ask them, they can order something for you. At least ours does. I don't know if they all will, but all right. So that is it. That's the home apothecary. And again, I would suggest be prepared. You never know when something's going to happen, and you're out of luck. Like I said, I learned that when we had the hurricane here and everything was down for it was like the flood of Noah. It took like a week or so just for the water to go down, and then the roads were wiped out and everything. So, there was a lot of damage from that. And, people, nothing was really open. They had food tents set up around the town and everything because there were no stores to open. People couldn't get to them anyways. So if something like that was to happen, to me it's better to be prepared than to not be prepared and be wanting and hurting. All right, so that's that. Now, before we wrap up, I want to ask a quick favor one more time. Again, I want to remind you, I posted the poll on YouTube asking whether you'd be interested in a plain English course on what's known as the buy, borrow, and die wealth strategy system. That's what it's known as. I'm sure I'm going to name it something different if I build it. Anyways, this is, again, something that the ultra wealthy use to build and protect their money while they keep their taxes low. If you have not voted in that poll yet, please, please, please take just a second and let me know yes, maybe, or no. That's all you got to do is write yes, maybe, or no. That'll give me an idea of if there's any interest in this thing and if I should put the time into building it. Because again, this is not something I can build in 5 minutes. It's going to take some time to build it. And I don't want to put a lot of time into building it and then nobody's interested in it. So your feedback really helps me to decide what I should create next. Okay? All right. And I also want to say thank you for your patience. I know it's been a while. I haven't posted since I think it was like the middle of September, and life has been busy behind the scenes. Right now, as I record this, there's 21 more days from Christmas, or till Christmas is here. And also tax season is starting up. So I've got a lot of tax things I've got to do. A lot of businesses that I work with are, I'm cleaning up their books for the end of the year so that they have clean books to go into the next year with. They also want to know about, their tax liability and whatnot this year. So I've been busy with that. That's kind of been, building or, piling up on me in these last couple weeks. And then the newsletter that I publish every week. So things are getting kind of hectic, but I'm going to do my very best to be here with a new video at least once a week, because this community means a lot to me. It really does. Okay. All right. And finally, last but not least, someone reached out to me and they requested a video on natural remedies for diabetes. And I think that's a pretty important topic that touches a lot of families. So that's what we'll be covering next, Lord willing. Okay? So until then, take good care of yourselves, stay hopeful, and remember, we are in this together, one day at a time. Okay? And again, if there is something that you guys want me to cover, like I said, if you want to build some of these things, build some of the extracts or the salves or the lozenges or any of that stuff, let me know and we can, start devoting some episodes to just making some of this stuff. Okay. And hopefully next time my cold is a little better and I'm not as winded as I am now. But please vote in the poll once more. I mean, please, please, please. It's really, really, really going to help me. Okay. And I appreciate every one of you. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. We'll have a lot of fun here. All right. All right. Thank you again. And I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.